It is the Everton Byline. We are back for episode number 44. I am Matt Jones. Joining me as ever is Paddy Boyland. Just first and foremost, thanks to everyone who listened and watched the last episode. It was one of the most popular we've had in terms of numbers. So we're back here again after listening for the first time last week. Do stick with us throughout the summer. Thanks for tuning in and getting involved. Paddy, today someone recognised your voice while you're out in Liverpool from the podcast, which is...
Oh, I actually mentioned this particular show as well, which was nice. So, always good to get that kind of positive feedback. If you've got negative feedback, then send it to Matt, not me, and we'll get on with it. Get on with it that way.
I don't think I'd ever go up to somebody and say, I recognise your voice. It's just too much of a leap, unless it was like extremely distinctive.
It's true.
Do you know what I mean?
I don't know if my voice is that distinctive either, to be honest. I reckon yours is probably more distinctive than mine.
Yeah, mine's very deep and sort of echoes through the house a lot when I'm doing these things, to the point where my wife says, "Why are you talking so loud?" I'm like, "I'm not. It's just my normal voice." But no, in all seriousness, thanks for all the positive feedback we've had. Thanks for listening. And if you are listening, like I said, for the first time, do hit subscribe on iTunes or Spotify. Do hit subscribe on YouTube, and you'll get notifications on your podcast dropping into your feed whenever. This is going out a little bit earlier, as I'm sure people who are listening regularly will have noticed. We are swapping with Blue Monday this week, as Paddy's off on his holiday tomorrow, so forth. We would get this one recorded. So the lads from Blue Monday will be doing Toffee Tuesday. So a bit of a switcheroo this week. But Paddy, it means that, very excitingly, we get to talk about Everton's first permanent signing of the summer.
We do.
First on the Blue Room Network. Carlos Alcaraz is in. He's through the door. We were talking about it last week. I've sort of tried to flip it a little bit to say, why wouldn't they do this deal? Because it seemed like such an obvious one. And they've done it, albeit there are other things that we're going to discuss about it. But first and foremost, the player himself, getting him through the door on a permanent deal. Very good news.
Yeah, very positive, I think. And I'm pretty sure that most people listening to this, most people watching this will agree as well. Not only did he contribute well across the entirety of his loan, but I also thought towards the end he started to generate some real momentum with particularly those away performances at Fulham and Newcastle. So, yeah, good to see him through the door. First of what you would expect to be a very, very busy summer. And I think the timing here is really important in the sense that, anybody that's read my reporting over the last week or so will know that they had until the end of the month to activate that purchase option and obviously have done so. So fee of 15 million euros, signs on an initial 2-year deal. I found it quite interesting looking at the comments on our article on The Athletic, and underneath my tweet confirming the transfer, that the topic of the contract length came up time and time again. Now, I'm sure we're going to discuss this, but in general, yeah, but very positive news to get him through the door. I think, as we said in last week's show, there wasn't really a reason not to do this. Like, good player, young player who can get better. For the fee, £12.5 million-ish, he doesn't actually have to set the world alight. He just has to be a decent squad player who contributes. I think he's very, very capable of doing that, as we saw this season. And crucially wanted to be here as well, despite there being interest from other Premier League clubs, I believe. So, yeah, I makes total sense to me. I think that's all I've probably got to say on that.
I think that the thing that, again, like we didn't really discuss this much last week, but we're going to talk about the terms of the deal in a bit more detail coming up. But one of the things that I've seen people say about the terms of the deal is that 2 years, if this goes badly wrong, then we're not tied to him for 5 years. He's not going to be here on big wages like we have been with many signings. But I don't know. Like, I understand why people are kind of conditioned to think like that with Everton, because most signings have gone wrong in the last few years. But I think if you look at this one, like, there is such fertile ground for him to become better, isn't there? In terms of, I think the one thing which has maybe gone under the radar a little bit of people have joked about it is that he's not got maybe a Spanish speaker in the dressing room now, which will be something he's going to have to learn the language, and that obviously poses challenges in itself. But I think from a purely footballing point of view and a purely personality point of view, like this feels like it can only really get better, in the sense that he's got a lot of assets which are raw and I think are quite malleable, that Moyes can sort of craft into the sort of player that he wants him to become, be it a number 10, be it a deeper midfielder, be it playing in one of those wide positions that he did at times last season. Fitness-wise, acclimatising to the area, all these things you'd imagine that after a summer, I think he knows, doesn't he, now this summer he's going to be here, so he can get where he's living settled. He can get his family over here if he wants to. His partner was on the pitch at the end as well. Maybe she can come over here and they can find somewhere properly to live, knowing that they're going to be here for 2 years at least. And I think early in his career, he's been a bit of a footballing nomad, hasn't he, in the sense that I think this would be, I think Everton is his 5th club, professional club, and he's only 22, which is a lot for someone of that age, and somebody who I think at every club he's been, from what I can gather, has been highly rated and highly regarded. And when he's moved on, it's not been a sense of you're not good enough or anything like that. It's just been through circumstances, really. So I think for him, like that, the fact that this is done early, the fact that it's permanent, and the fact that he's got a whole summer now to kind of get settled and put roots down here for 2 years, maybe, in that sense, that can only be a good thing. And I think that's the thing that sort of excites me about this transfer, is that we've seen glimpses from him so far, but it feels like the potential is there for this to get much better rather than much worse, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, this is the reason why you sign young players. He's only 22. I think when you consider the amount of experience he's actually had so far and the depth of experience in different places, then it comes as a surprise to some people that he is still only 22. But you would expect him to get better. You would expect his value to appreciate. You would expect resale value from him as well. This is why people buy young and then try and sell high further down the line. Makes complete sense from a PSR point of view. Although I'm sure people will be pointing out, as I'm saying this right now, that the length of the deal as it is currently at 2 years does make PSR a little bit tougher for Everton, in the sense that you're spreading that 12, whatever it is, 12.5-ish million over 2 years now instead of 4 or 5 potentially. So you're increasing your costs across one financial year. There's no reason really not to do this deal in just about every single way. It's always made sense, even down to his contributions on the pitch, the different areas he's able to play in on the pitch, different elements he's able to bring to the table. So this is going to be a really popular signing with fans. And the only negative has been I suppose if there is one, has been the news about his contract length.
Go on then. Let's get into that, because I was pretty stunned when I saw that, because I sort of, because of all the things we've just spoken about there, there's potential for this to get better, maybe rather than get worse of his age, all that sort of thing. I was thinking like 4 years at least. And then when I saw that, I was busy on Saturday and sort of text you. I was like 2 years, in sort of just stunned by it. And like the more I've thought about it, the more I've like read around it and heard what people have got to say about it, it can kind of make me peace with it. But I don't know about you, Paddy. Like before this deal was done permanently, I thought like this is win-win for Everton. But now I see this, and like it's almost, I wouldn't say completely flipped, but it's a weird one, isn't it now? Because say this transfer goes really well, Everton are going to look bad for making this a 2-year deal with potential for a third. I think you've reported that, haven't you, as well? Yeah. So you've reported it's 2 years with potential option for a third. And is that something Everton can just activate whenever, or is that performance related? You're on mute at the moment, mate. Sorry.
I don't know.
Okay.
As it stands right now, I don't know. All I know is that there's a club option for a third year. So the club will have to make a decision as and when. I know, for example, on Decore's option, not all of them the same, but on Decore's option for a further year, that needs to be triggered around the end of the January transfer window. So these things do tend to come quite early on in the season, actually, when you put everything together. I think last week when we were talking about the wording of Everton's statement initially on Alcaraz, and we spoke a little bit about what they could even be negotiating. At that point, I was a little bit at a loss, because I'm thinking to myself, right, they filed paperwork on this. Everybody knows what the deal is. So that you can try and renegotiate the fee with Flamenco, but they haven't done that. We know now that they've not done that. So what are they even looking to get out of this with this renegotiation? And actually, I think what happened is my understanding was that he was likely to sign a longer term deal initially, and has now ended up with 2+1. I think people will feel a lot better about the 2+1 bit than they would have done about the 2. With a purely 2-year deal, I think within 6 months, by the time you get to the January transfer window next season, if he's doing well, all of a sudden then you start to regret that, because you're thinking to yourself, we need to make sure he's not going into the final year of his deal. We need to get this tied down as soon as possible to protect the asset and to protect the value of the player. The additional year at the very least means that if Everton want this, they can make it 3 years. So for all intents and purposes, then it does become a 3-year deal. But I think it took people by surprise when they saw the initial announcement from Everton. And that's what's changed. My belief is that my understanding of the situation was that initially he was likely to sign for longer, and they've negotiated that down. We can all draw our own conclusions as to why that is.
Is that Everton have negotiated? Sorry to interrupt. Is that Everton have negotiated that down, or Alcaraz's side?
That would be the Everton side.
Everton side. So it seems like this is Everton who are driving the fact that, because usually in a situation it'd be 4 or 5 years, wouldn't it? So it's a bit weird. So to come down from that position that you said there, that you thought he was going to sign a 4-year deal, it's Everton who've sort of negotiated back on this as opposed to Alcaraz and his people.
Yes, I mean, I suppose you could make the point that it's better leverage for an agent and a player to have a lower contract in one sense, in terms of the amount of years. But that also provides a bit of uncertainty too, doesn't it? And actually, Alcaraz did want to be at Everton. He did just want to stay. So I think they were just quite happy to get it done as soon as possible, I'm led to believe. You can even logically zero in on who we're talking about here at Everton, can't we? Because we know, for example, that as of January, the deal that was negotiated by Kevin Thelwell and Dan Purdy and the people at the club then was slightly different. So we've moved, and you can then see what's changed in terms of personnel in that period. And I think we've spoken before on this show about maybe not everybody being completely sure on Alcaraz as a player. I think you've seen that in selection at times, even though there's been a variety of things going on, including obviously the obligation to buy and Everton wanting to keep the power in that situation as and when they triggered it. But he didn't always play over Decore, particularly in the supposedly tougher games where Everton were trying to still grind out wins and grind out points. And I think it just became ultimately a question of, we've got this deal here for a lad, other players are leaving, we know he can do the business, but we're going to do other business as well, and let's see where that goes. I mean, you don't know what else happens at Everton. I'm pretty sure Everton will be looking at other attacking players or other attacking midfielders because they need to. I mean, this is how sad I am, Matt. The other day on a piece of paper, I wrote down by position all the players that are currently right now contracted to Everton. So as of right now, that includes Alcaraz, but it doesn't include Idrissa Gueye, Seamus Coleman, all the ones that we're still waiting for a decision on. And I was only up with Harrison Armstrong, I was only up at about 15 players in total, which is mad by itself. But looking across the forward positions, it was only striker where you had Beto and Schmidt. Other positions, I suppose you'd have McNeil and Jai as on the left, as left wingers. You'd have Alcaraz now as an attacking midfielder. But Decore's gone. There was no other real attacking midfielder in the squad. And then there's no right wing option. So that shows you how bare the options are. And again, kind of emphasises why you don't have to be 100% sold on Alcaraz to do this, because of the fee and what he brings. I mean, I don't particularly want to see him playing on the right loads. And I'll be honest, I don't particularly want to see him playing on the left all the time. I think he's better in that central position. But you know for sure that he can do it. if needs be. And if you're strapped in central midfield slightly deeper, he can probably do that as well. I think at Southampton he played as a false nine at times. So that versatility, when you're having to do so much across one window, is why you would maybe do it anyway. So yeah, bit of an odd situation, but I think people will feel better about it being 2+1. It's 3 years if Everton want it to be, and that's the thing to stress. It's a club option.
Yeah, that doesn't make you feel a lot better about it, doesn't it? Because I think you're right. Like, imagine if he was just on a 2-year deal, straight 2 years, and he started the season, he scored like 5 goals in the first 10 games. Like the panic starts then, and I think like just purely from like our situation where we're going, like, support a situation where you go into a new ground, you want to enjoy it, you want to lap up all these new signings. Like, the last thing you want is for a lad to be doing really well and stop panicking about where he's going to be because of the short length of the contract. But that extra year just gives that bit of breathing room, doesn't it? I suppose
if you really like him, Matt, if you really like the player, you put all your cards on the table, don't you? And you say 4 years or 4+1 even, as Everton have done before. If you're really, really sure of the player, I think you go for a longer deal. And I mean, somebody else pointed out to me yesterday when this was confirmed, it was like, it's worth checking how many 22-year-olds who are established Premier League players, not kind of the types trying to get through into the first team, how many of them are given 2-year deals initially?
Is it quite a lot?
No, it's like next to none.
Oh.
Yeah, it's next to none. It's very, very uncommon. And I'm sure some people will look at this, I think, favourably and say, maybe this is a sign that Everton aren't going to be tied down in terms of contracts. They're not going to make the mistakes of before where they handed long contracts out and then weren't able to get these players off the books until 3 or 4 years down the line when they were ready to leave on freeze. I'm sure some people will be saying that. But there are other ways to look at it as well. So, yeah, I think it's quite unusual for a 22-year-old to get an initial 2-year deal. But the main thing, I think, is that he's an Everton player. And I think, yeah, again, total sense. Positive steps. I mean, a bit of feel good early in the window, which is helpful. I mean, I know Alcaraz joined in January as a loan, but this is the first permanent addition since the Friedkins came in. It's the first permanent addition since David Moyes came in. So it's kind of, there's a symbolism to Charlie Alcaraz as an Everton player now. And I think, as we've discussed before, like he's definitely very popular with Everton fans already. So a bit of feel good right at the start of the window. I think that's good for all of us now.
And while it may be Moyes who's got some reservations about him, like, this does feel very Moyes 1.0, doesn't it? And there's things you do at Everton where, someone will come in on loan, do quite well, and then you'd either get them back again or sign them permanently. So yeah, some interesting parallels there, but it is a little bit paradoxical, I think, in the sense that the better he does, the worse the deal's going to look. Whereas the worse he does, the better the deal's going to look. If you get what I mean. So like, listen, I totally get it. I think you outlined it. Put it all on the line there really well and explained effectively why it is what it is. And like I said, he's not going to be. You can't imagine him being the crown jewel of this Everton attack next season. It feels like he's going to be a part in like something bigger, maybe a squad player. He's going to have to continue to battle to get his place in the team. So, but by all accounts of what we've seen from him so far, it looks like he'll do that. So he's going to be really valuable to have around. And yeah, positive. The Argentina shirt with Alcaraz 8 on the back, Paddy, the dream is still alive as well. Maybe we'll get that at some point next season.
As in the one that they've got currently, the nice, is it a centenary edition?
Yeah, it's gorgeous, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So if he was to make his Argentina debut over the next 6 months, and that would be helpful from that point of view.
I'll be straight on the JARG website getting that, and no chance of me paying full price for it. But yeah, good news. Potentially more good news coming as well in terms of contracts over the next few days. Because as we sit here recording on Sunday night, I should probably timestamp that because obviously it could come quickly by the time people listen to this on Monday morning. We are still waiting for news on Idrissa Gueye, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Michael Keane, Seamus Coleman, and Mason Holgate, Paddy, as well. Shouldn't forget about Mason.
Leo Mopane. Is his.
Right. It's already agreed that, isn't it? He's going to.
It's a permanent obligation. I think Marseille would have had to get relegated, so he's gone. I don't think anybody's expecting Mason Holgate to stick around, so we can cross those two off the list. I'm sure listeners will be very disappointed that both of those have left the club.
But Idrissa Gueye, it looks like he's going to stick around. I think over the past couple of weeks has been sort of variety of different reports from all over the place. Some suggesting he's going to go, some suggesting he's going to stay. I don't think he's really given much away himself, has he, either? I think I remember trying to watch him quite closely in the lap of honour after the last game of Goodison, seeing if there's any kind of hints he was giving off. But no one was going to do anything that compared to Decore and the way in which he said his big farewell was, in tears or waving to everybody. But Idrissa just kind of kept himself to himself as he does usually. But it looks like Paddy's going to be kicking around for 2 years. I've seen reports suggesting it might be a 2-year deal.
I think that's still up in the air. Yeah. I don't think as of right now, Sunday evening, everything is completely agreed. I think the trajectory currently is positive, almost very positive, and I think the expectation is that it will get over the line. But I think the debate is whether it becomes 2 years, whether it becomes 1 year. You can see the argument for either, to be honest, given his age. If he was any younger, you'd just hand the 2-year deal over to him right now. Again, and this is purely my opinion here rather than information, but I almost wonder if probably the safest bet is to do 1 guaranteed year plus the option for another one if the player himself and his agent, I think it's his brother, by the way, if they're amenable to all of this. Similar to Alcaraz falls into the category of just keep him around, get it done. It's one less thing to worry about next season. And again, even if Idrissa isn't what he was the season just gone, next time around, you've still got somebody there that you would expect to contribute over the course of the season, even as he maybe starts to wind down. So positive progress on that. While we stressed that on Sunday evening, we're not aware of it being fully done right now. Who else have we got? We've got Dominic Calvert-Lewin, we've got Seamus Coleman, we've got Michael Keane. And I think you can even break that down even further and say Moyes has been pretty clear on Seamus Coleman. So if Seamus wants it, that will happen. You would expect him to be a part of the club in some capacity next season. I said on last week's show that I expected movement last week because of the Alcaraz stuff. And I'm going to say on this week's show, I would expect more movement this coming week on contracts. I think we'll get more. Probably the one right now that appears closest being Idrissa and Seamus next down the line. The other two, Michael Keane and Dominic Calvert-Lewin, maybe they rumble on a little bit longer. But we've spoken before about Keane. I still think that's in play to an extent. I still think that's. I wouldn't completely discount another deal. So let's see how it goes. How are you feeling about it all?
I sort of feel like, so I think Idrissa's going to stay. I think of the other three, I think one's definitely going to stay, one's definitely going to go. And I've got no inside information on this. It's just pure gut feel. I think one's definitely going to stay, one's definitely going to go, and one I'm not sure about. I'm sure you can probably guess which one's which.
So you think
I think Keane is the 50-50. I think Coleman's going to stay, and I think Dom's going to go. Although I was just when you were talking then, and obviously last week we speak a lot about the lap, and his situation looks like it's resolved now with him going to Chelsea after obviously they won the Champions League and all that. But do you think that changes anything in regards to Calvert-Lewin? Because
no.
I don't know about you. Like I think I look at the lap situation. I get why you're interested in him. And it felt like a sort of unique opportunity to sign a player who would be maybe worth a bit more on the market this summer if it wasn't for that clause. Although I know people have got the doubts about him as a player. About 30 million is enough for him anyway. But I don't know. Like I sort of look at the squad now and I think, say if you were to keep Calvert-Lewin, And like, I'm not totally for that. I'm not totally against that. And you had Beto, Chimiti, and Calvert-Lewin as you could have Dom to your little charts that you've done over the last few days. Then all of a sudden you look at centre forward, and I don't know. It feels all of a sudden like that's quite far down the list. And I'm not saying by any means that we've got great options there who are going to score us loads of goals, but you've got 3 bodies there to play in a system which only accommodates 1 striker typically. You've got no right winger, as you've mentioned there. You've got 2 senior central midfielders. You've got 1 left back. You've got right back. You've got loads of, but one of them is a centre back. One of them barely plays, and one of them is always injured. So, like, all of a sudden, it feels like centre forward is like middle of the pack in terms of priorities if you keep Calvert-Lewin. Not because Calvert-Lewin's amazing or Beto's amazing or Chimiti's amazing, but just because you've got bodies in that position. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that there are loads of other areas of need, and some, in my opinion, are probably more pressing than centre forward. And we said on last week's show that if Everton go into next season with Beto leading the line, it might not be a superlative situation. It might not be the best thing that could happen, a best case scenario. But it wouldn't be the worst case scenario either. You could do much, much worse than having Beto based on this season's performances there with somebody else's backup. I actually don't think the Delap situation has changed an awful lot for Everton. I still think while it was a very good opportunity and they knew that, I think they always felt that he was highly likely to go elsewhere. And obviously, as it stands now, he appears to have agreed to go to Chelsea already. So let's say that looks like it's off the table for now. I still think Everton will probably go for another centre forward this summer. And you've got Beto there who's impressed. I mean, did an interview with Billy McKinley as part of a wider read on Everton's turnaround under Moyes last week on The Athletic. And like one of the things we spoke about at length was kind of how impressed they'd been by Beto and how they'd got more out of him and almost how endearing it was that he'd worked hard at his game and was doing extra work with them and taking on their advice and all that kind of stuff. So I think there's a bit more confidence around Beto now. I think if Chimiti's not playing regular minutes for Everton, he needs to go and play somewhere else. He's a kind of crucial stage of his development. So I still wonder if somebody slots in and competes with Beto next season as a striker. And then maybe you buy another number 9 and then maybe you look to focus on other positions. They'll have to look at wingers. They'll have to look at fullbacks. Depending on what happens with Keane. And I think what I'd stress over Keane is that Everton, of course, could offer him a new deal. But that doesn't mean he would automatically accept because he'll have other offers as he has had interest. And he might actually look at it and go, well, I don't want to be a 4th choice centre-back at Everton. I want to go and play somewhere else, or I want to go and earn more money somewhere else, although I doubt it, actually, based on where it's been before. So they're always, it's not just a case of Everton wanting these players. They have to, as we saw with Decore, they have to also buy into the deal that's on the table and want to make that work. There's a lot of work to be done. I mean, if Keane were to go, then you probably need a new centre-back, don't you? Because you've lost your 4th, and then somebody like Tarkowski's injured already. Because of those 2 injuries, you shift O'Brien inside to play with Branthwaite, but then you lose an option from right back.
Yeah.
And you've already lost Ashley Young. Seamus is injured at the moment. I don't know how long he's going to be, but he's obviously injured at the moment. And obviously Patterson hasn't had many opportunities under Moyes. So it's like trying to fit all the pieces in together, isn't it? Make sure it all knits together. And we'll hopefully have more clarity on it over the next week or so. And then I think it'll become very, very clear after that which positions should be prioritised.
I think the other thing to throw into the mix, we're not going to talk about it in detail now because I feel like we're going to be talking about it a lot this summer. But it feels like over the weekend, the Branthwaite transfer rumour mill has really kicked into gear.
It's not a surprise.
I saw just before we started recording, then I think Paul Joyce and Gary Jacob at the Times have said that Tottenham are interested in him. There's been reports about Chelsea are looking at him as well. So like that's all still to come as well. And obviously if he goes, then it flips the entire window again, doesn't it, in terms of what Everton have got to do and the money they've got and reevaluating the targets. So So yeah, that dance is still to come, which will certainly be interesting.
I mean, I'm at the risk of provoking fury here from people in North London, but why, if you're Jared Branthwaite, would you want to join a team that finished below Everton? No, it's slightly flippant there because, of course, Tottenham did, because they won the Europa League, then qualified for Europe the following season. But I don't think that's the best place. I don't know. I don't think that's the best place for somebody like him when there's so much. There will be so much interest and has been so much interest. I wouldn't be looking at Tottenham and going, yeah, that's where I really think I can push on and do really well. Same as it was with Man United last year. You're kind of looking at going, why would you do that? Like, probably you could wait and get something even better. And let's see what happens. Let's see what Everton think. It won't be the last time Jared Branthwaite is linked with anyone this summer, because that's the nature of the rumour mill. And he is a player that has been in demand now. I said before on this show, teams had a little look in January as well, even though it's not been extensively reported. So this is what happens when you have very good players, Matt. Sometimes very good players are linked with moves elsewhere.
Yeah, I feel like this time last summer, I was terrified about losing them on the cheap because of the finances and all that kind of stuff. Like, at least I feel like we're going into it in like a much stronger financial position. Well, we are, aren't we? So that in itself is. So it feels like if the club are going to sell them, it will be completely on their terms. I know they dug the heels in last summer, but it felt like there was always going to be a number, which
they don't have to sell.
No.
I mean, maybe if a ridiculous fee comes in, or maybe if the player himself makes it abundantly clear that he only wants to be somewhere else, then maybe you have a conversation. But they don't have to sell. And I think this is the point you're making there. Like last summer, Everton did set a price. And they did pretty openly say that if somebody meets our valuation, we'll begrudgingly accept particularly on Branthwaite, but on others too. The fact of the matter was Manchester United didn't get anywhere close to Everton's valuation, so it wasn't much of a conversation. But that shows you where they were last summer, and that was out of financial necessity, I'd say. We've removed that financial necessity this summer because in that intervening period, there's been a takeover. Everton's position has improved immeasurably, I would say, in a financial sense. So I don't really think they're going to be entertaining anything unless something absolutely ludicrous comes in. And hopefully he stays.
The lashing 15 million quid that lads the manager doesn't even rate. So, we're fine. He must be absolutely sound. Of course, being very flippant there. But yeah, we'll cross the Branthwaite bridge when it comes to it, because I'm sure there will be a point this summer where we have to address that head on. Just quickly to finish off, mate, final topic. We'll rattle through these. Everton did the end of season awards in the week. We're sort of going to go through them and some of our own and sort of see if we agree. And I know you agree with the main one, Trezeguet being player of the year, because you wrote about it. No argument to me there either, and I don't think it's any surprise that he won both. I always find the players one more interesting than the fans one, because I think it says a lot about the bits you don't see and the stuff in the dressing room. And I think it was quite telling what Seamus said when he presented the award to Garner Gay in regards to, I think this isn't verbatim, but he said you've essentially been like a beast in training this year, every single day and on it all the time. So I think that one is often a lot more interesting than the fans one, but he won both of them and well deserved.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, isn't it? I think I'd written early last week about this, and I'd been asked on behalf of the Athletic to pick Everton's player of the season, as all our club reporters have been, and went for Idrissa. I mean, I started thinking about this a month ago, and at that point, to me, it just seemed obvious it was going to be him for what he did over the course of the entirety of the campaign. But then Pickford ends really strongly, and I'm thinking to myself, he's had, we're not talking about it much, but he's actually had a great season, particularly towards the end of the campaign, and ended with real momentum as well. But I think it is still Idrissa. I'm trying to picture an Everton midfield without him, and even now, to me, I find that quite troublesome.
Yeah.
I think they really struggled in parts of the season. It's like all those moments where like they weren't playing very well, but he was running around putting out fires all over the pitch and just doing it like the longevity of it to do it across the whole season, not to pick up injuries, to play loads of games, and then obviously, as you pointed out, to receive I suppose, the adulation from his teammates as well. I mean, I go back, and I think I mentioned this again in the piece, but I go back to that moment of full time at Brighton. Like we're right, the press box is right above the dugouts at the Amex, and as soon as that game finishes, I think he had 3 players over to him. In that January game, he'd been immense. Everton had obviously held on, even with Mangala missing the final 10 minutes or so due to injury and them not being able to make another substitution. He got 3 or 4 of them straight over to him, and then Moyes is over to him as well. And I just thought, yeah, like I know that somebody else has scored the goal and whatever else, but like he's the main man here, and he's the one who deserves all the attention. And I'm quite glad to see it go to like a defensive midfielder who does a lot of unheralded stuff, because sometimes it's nice for us to shine a light on that. I mean, I think Iliman Ndiaye had a good first season in Everton. I think Pickford, as I've mentioned, had a great season, and probably for me came closest to Idrissa over the course of the whole campaign. But I went to Idrissa, and I thought it was interesting that the players did as well.
I think it's really interesting that so the fans' player of the year for the past 3 years has been won by Pickford, but he's not won any of the players' player of the year ones in that time.
Has he not?
The players' player of the year for the last 3 seasons have been Jarrod Branthwaite, Alex Iwobi, and Anthony Gordon. And Jordan Pickford's won all 3 of them with the fans, which is a bit weird. I don't know what that says, but I just find it a bit mad. We had joint winners in 2018-19. Paddy, do you remember who they were?
18-19. So that's the season before. I'm stalling for time here. The season before I started with the Athletic permanently. Mm-hmm. So I would say Idrissa Gueye probably.
Yeah, he was one of them.
He would have been up there then, because he left that summer, didn't he? Went to PSG that summer. Kurt Zouma had a very good season that year, but I don't think it's him. Calvert-Lewin was excellent that season.
This is great stalling. This just leaving the squad going. It wasn't this player.
Richarlison?
No, it was. Do you want me to give you the answer? I'll give 5 seconds. People who are listening.
Luca Dean.
Yeah, well done. That's the right answer. Yeah, Luca Dean.
Yeah, Luca Dean and Idrissa. I don't like these joint awards. Like,
nah, me neither.
Pick one.
Neither. So, but the players play, they might have got like an equal number of votes or something. So,
right, yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah. Very quickly as well, goal of the season. Everton's official one was James Tarkowski. Any
Can we do an alternative one, Matt?
Yeah. My alternative one would be Ndiaye against Tottenham. Just very un-Everton goal. In the sense that it's a nice move and a player skinning someone and finishing like that. That was put us 2-0 up, wasn't it, in the game as well?
Yeah.
Obviously, do you know what? I was a bit worried after the Villa game, Moyes' first game back, and I know we played better that night. I was a little bit worried that, and like I didn't think this myself when we appointed Moyes, but I was like in the back of my mind after coming out of that Villa game, I was like, are all these pundits right? Like, is this just going to be a bit more of the same? Or are we going to struggle? And then seeing us play like that in that first half against Tottenham was just like validation of what I actually thought that Moyes and what proved to be right. That Moyes
Calvert-Lewin's goal was great in that game as well.
Yeah, forgotten that actually, isn't it? Because he obviously got injured the next week. But I'd go Ndiaye against Spurs with an honourable mention to McNeil against Palace. Yeah,
I have no complaints there. I go back to, I know everybody focuses on how silly Ndiaye makes the Tottenham defence look towards the end of that move, but the play before it to open up the space for Ndiaye was great. They're like, and we obviously didn't see this much from Dyche's Everton at all, because they didn't want to have the ball in deeper areas and have possession, but they kind of suckered Tottenham in. They were playing it around. Tottenham jumped out to try and close them down, and then Everton just hit them in the space. And I thought that was the moment I realised that there was more to Moyes' Everton, that like you were adding levels on top in terms of the way he was looking to play and the tactical blueprint and everything else. So yeah, I'd have no complaints there. I feel like we had to do an alternative one because everybody just says Tarkowski, and like I've probably written everything I need to write or say everything I need to say about that Tarkowski goal, as great as it was.
Just a couple of other goals that I really liked, which were not amazing goals, but I really enjoyed them. This one's been completely forgotten because of what happened afterwards, but the goal we scored to go 2-0 up against Bournemouth at home, I think McNeil plays a lovely little through ball to Calvert-Lewin, who dinks it over the keeper, and we go 2-0 up, but then obviously very bad things happen in the last 5 minutes. Yeah. And I also really loved O'Brien's equaliser at Brentford, just because the lad who's marking him just has got no idea how to deal with a guy who's that big, that fast, and that strong, and he effectively just steps out the way and lets O'Brien dive and header it into the bottom corner. So I really enjoyed both of those as well.
Decore away at Forest.
Yes, that was great.
I love and also like away goals are so much better when they're scored in front of the away end and you're able to just run over. Like that's the thing I hate about the away end at Newcastle. Even though I sit in the press box, like I can see all the Everton fans in the guards, but I love that interaction you get between away fans and players when a late goal scored like that. That Decore goal is great. And everything about it, like we've spoken about it before, the chaos of the celebration,
what was celebrations,
the celebrations plural, the context of why he was doing it and what was happening behind the scenes. And I also think the noise that greeted Iliman Ndiaye's goal against Southampton on the final day of the season as well, where it just felt like we needed like an early moment as a bit of lift off, and that happened there. And I think that will always kind of live with me because of how important the occasion was. So there's loads there. It's nice to be able to talk fondly about Everton goals and not just kind of pick our favourite set piece from the 30 that I scored across the whole season.
Well, what one goal of the season last year would have been Dom's header, wasn't it, against Liverpool, which was a set piece.
Yeah, almost certainly. I mean, they scored one goal, didn't they? It was McNeil to the back post. And to be fair to McNeil, he does deliver it very well in those situations.
It's all about the like opposition there, isn't it? Like if that goal scored against anybody else, it's just not winning goal of the season, is it?
It's the context. It's the context. Even the Tarkowski one. I mean, if he does that with the best will in the world, if he does that at home to Bournemouth or he does that at home to Wolves, it's obviously a great goal. And the last minute goal, he hits it really well. I loved how hard he hit the ball and how high it went into the net and the scenes it provoked. But we're looking at, I think you've got to look at them kind of how important the occasion is, the opponents and everything else. And that's why derby goals kind of scoop these awards time and time again, don't they?
The other one you mentioned before, which do a couple more. The other one you mentioned before was most improved player. I think there's only one real candidate for this, isn't there?
Well, who are you going for?
It's got to be Beto, hasn't it?
Yeah. We're just agreeing on all of these, which is I wanted some debate, but
the last one you said was moments of the season, and let's rule out the Tarkowski goal. That's not allowed. But what would you say? Like good or bad? Like what was the defining most significant moment of the season? Would you say?
I'm going to go for an off the field one, and I'm going to say the Freaking Group's takeover being completed and confirmed, just because of what that means to the club moving forward and how desperate things had been. I mean, lowest moment that Bournemouth game takes some beating, but and I'm talking about the home game there, but the one that does beat it is Bournemouth away for me, and how bad that was. But I think what's happened is Moyes has come in and the mood around the place has transformed. And I think how you end the season is really important, because then you hopefully try and take some of that feel-good factor. Supporters still happy, signed Alcaraz, ended the season well. Try and take that into the new stadium. So yeah, I'll probably go for the Freaking Group completing the takeover. And I do agree with you on Beto, by the way. I don't know who else has really
weird one, isn't it? Yeah,
improved. I thought Mikalenko improved towards the end of the season after not being very good.
And O'Brien got better throughout the season. Oh, I'll say He's been good. He was just good when he came in. Wasn't he? Just stayed at a similar level. So, like, has he improved, or has he just been given a chance?
I think he was maybe just always good, and then he was finally given a chance sometime around January after the change of manager. I think Pickford had a better second half of the season than he did first, because obviously there's a couple of high-profile errors, and I'm thinking of one off the top of my head against Tottenham early in the season.
It felt like it took him a while to get over the summer.
Yeah, and I think that's understandable. To be fair, I mean, sometimes we forget, don't we, that these players are humans as well. And I mean, he didn't have much break at all. That loss for England will have hit some of them really hard, because then you'll be thinking, is that it for me now? Am I ever going to get another chance at this? And I think that's the psychological side, the mental strain, all that kind of stuff. I think it probably inevitably does bleed into the months ahead. I think it has to be better. And again, I mean, he's obviously been better, but some of that it's down to Moyes and his staff, the work they've done with him, the blueprint they've given him to go on and perform better, to excel in the side. And that's a really nice positive story as well with him. He's obviously, I mean, you can tell it means so much.
Yeah. My moments away, the takeover is the most, I think it's the most significant, isn't it? Like, in all honesty, but other significant. You kind of mentioned one there, was Bournemouth away. Two things that I remember from that game is their fans singing, "How do you watch this every week?"
Yes.
That stuck. And I just remember Dyche's interview afterwards. And as soon as he said those words to the club channel about, if you take the losses away or something along those lines, wasn't it? Like, I think we said on the show the day after, it was like, he's done. Like, his mind is completely gone. Like, they are the words and the actions of a fella who has completely lost it now. And just other ones which I thought were funny. Njai's celebration at Brighton was hilarious.
Yes.
He got booked for it. That was unbelievable.
Well, we obviously got loads of fume. Don't know if you remember this, but like, we had kicking off Graham Stewart and some of Everton's media team after that. I mean, like, the funny thing about that was, like, it was brewing throughout the game. So, like, they showed, after Everton scored the penalty, they showed the decision on the big screen. And I'm sat there thinking that maybe this is just me and blue tinted specs.
A pen.
Sat there thinking, it's a pen. Like, it's got to be a pen. He's swatted the ball away. It might as well have been playing volleyball. But the fury around the whole stadium, I think it's like partisanship, isn't it? It's like football fans just like see what they want to see, I guess, in some cases. Even though most of us would want to be a bit more balanced. And it just built throughout the game, and they obviously just getting more and more irate as Brighton couldn't break Everton down, and we had that at the end. So I actually loved that day. Yeah. I loved the fume and Everton winning and all that kind of stuff. A gritty away win. So yeah, that would be up there for me as well.
And just a couple more, if you don't mind. The United Ashley Young non-penalty chaos was just bizarre, and I want to go into it now. The explanation of it, like, whilst it kind of made sense, it was just mad and weird one, very weird one. And finally, for me, Paddy, it's got to be Anthony Gordon having a penalty saved by Jordan Pickford at the Gladys Street. Just his little meditation before he took it, all the stuff he'd been saying about Liverpool and the build-up to it, his little face beforehand. It was just, I think on this podcast, we like to elevate ourselves above Schadenfreude and stuff like that, but it was great to see.
I don't think we should aim for that at all. I think we should absolutely revel in those moments and make.
Of course, he got hooked on the last day as well, just to complete the circle. It was lovely.
That's what I was going to say. Ashley Young played him really well. He obviously dived at one point, didn't he? Gordon to win a decision, which bizarrely ended up on Ref Watch. I couldn't believe that on Sky when we got Dermot Gallagher saying he dived effectively. And then there's a lovely moment where Young nutmegs him on the line. So Anthony Gordon did not have a good time of it against Everton, and hopefully whichever jersey he's in moving forward, that continues. Yeah, I think we can be petty on this. I'm not writing for the Athletic, so it can be
more pettiness over the summer. Yeah. I'm sure. Just to finish off, we'll do the numbers. We haven't got loads this week. Jensen Metcalf and Nathan Craig are the only two for 44. Metcalf's had a good end to the season, didn't he, on loan?
Yes, he was at Chesterfield and performed very well, even though they lost in the playoffs. I've always liked Metcalf. He's always been one of the better ones in the age group teams I've seen when I've been watching them. Tidy midfielder, combative, good on the ball. Remember, he used to take corners with both feet as well. So he'd switch flanks and then he'd take one with the other foot because he was just that good at doing it.
New Santi Cazorla, would you say?
The new Santi Cazorla, he's probably got quite a long way to go to get to those levels. I think he's probably looking at another loan higher up, see how he gets on there. I mean, unfortunately for him, he's like he was always in and around it. Everybody would speak about it, and he trained with the first team quite early. But then Harrison Armstrong comes along, and almost at 18, he looks very close to being first team ready. So yeah, good footballer, Jensen Metcalf. I'm sure he'll have a decent career.
Just people who've got ideas for the end of the show, by the way, keep them coming in. Everton Byline at gmail.com. I have got an idea which I think might work, but I'm just going to test it out this week. So maybe we'll go to 50 and then we'll see. But yeah, I think I've got quite a good idea, but I'm just going to trial it over the next few weeks. But if people have got better ones, send them in. Everton Byline at gmail.com. If you watch us on YouTube, do leave us a comment. Let us know your player of the season, your moment of the season, your funniest moment of the season. Were you just like me, just enjoying laughing at Andy Gordon and all that sort of stuff? But yeah, let us know your answers to them. Anything else we've talked about, the Alcaraz deal, be interested to hear what people think about the 2-year plus 1 year option on that. If listening to us on iTunes or listening to us on Spotify, do leave us a rating, do leave us a review. It all helps. Paddy is very keen on getting the Blue Room and Byline to the top of Google search when you put Everton podcast in. So he's asked me to hammer this. So keep Les off my back, please, listeners, and give us a 5-star rating and a review because it will help us get up on Google and then more people can listen, as they've done over the last few weeks. So cheers for that. And next week we'll be out on Tuesday lunchtime. Is that right, Paddy? Because you're away. Yep. So yeah, we'll be out Tuesday lunchtime. Yeah. Next Tuesday. The Blue Monday lads will be back on Monday. So it's just this week we've done the temporary switch. So look out for us on Tuesday lunchtime. But cheers for tuning in, everybody. I hope you have a good week. Up the toughies.